Welcome to the Fantasy Football Healers program, a show that is Dynasty Fantasy Football. Now brought to you by the Fantasy Holics. That's thefantasyholics.com. And you can also find them at FantasyHolics1 on Twitter X. You can find me, your host, Dustin Brown, at FF Healers. And you can find our co-host, Colton Palmer, at FFCaptain22 on Twitter X.
Welcome to another great week in the dead of the off season. We're getting to the boring part of football. We're just getting the good old training camp starting up and everything, and the Jacoby Brissett showing up but not practicing. So we are at the most exciting time of fantasy football.
Of fantasy American football. But right now we've got football here in the States, and America is going to be playing Australia today in just 2 hours.
I can't watch soccer, man. I'm sure it's like electric if you're actually there. It's like kind of like baseball. It has to be like an in-person event. Otherwise, you're just staring at grown men launching a ball across the field. Just can't get behind watching it on TV.
A lot of running.
Lots. Their cardio is superb.
I enjoy watching it, but I worked with a pro soccer team down in Arizona for about 2 years. So that got me a little bit more interested in soccer overall, and I've kind of stuck with it since. And if you would have lived in Arizona, you would have thought that soccer was like a top 3 sport in the United States.
It's definitely gaining some traction here in the United States, and I think Ted Lasso has everything to do with it.
I've never watched any of those episodes. I don't have Apple TV.
You gotta get a hold of that one, man. Great series. Great series.
I've heard good things. Colton, we've got a few things in the news. Not sure if you're aware, Colton, but RJ Harley ended up having an off-season labrum surgery, and that was following a labrum injury that he would have got in the AFC Championship game. The snow game.
The news for RJ Harvey just keeps getting worse and worse, man. If you've got Harvey, I'd be doing everything I can to get him off my team.
You can't sell him right now, Colton. You don't want to sell him on the low.
I don't know how. I can only see it getting lower, possibly, man.
Oh, that's not good, Colton.
That the Broncos were talking in the offseason. They wanted one of the big names. I mean, they wanted Kenneth Walker, some of the bigger name guys, and they didn't get them. So they brought back in J.K. Dobbins, which just means that their faith in R.J. Harvey was not there. And then now he's got a surgery. You can always bank on J.K. Dobbins being hurt, but they also drafted Jonah Coleman. So I'm nervous. I've got him in one league, and I'm definitely going to be trying to fish around for some people that might want a running back.
I'm still in on RJ Harvey. I still think that they're going to use him. The labrum, he's got a few months still to recover. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine.
You can keep saying
he's going to be fine, Colton.
You're like
he's going to be fine, Colton.
RJ Harvey is your Dalton Kincaid.
No.
Oh yeah, I went there.
You might not be wrong, Colton. That's a great way to look at it, and it's made me second guess things.
Despite
today's the tight end episode for Dynasty, and so we're gonna see where Kincaid is gonna be at here, Colton. Don't look ahead. Like let's analyze this together here in just a moment. But before we do, I think there's one more bit of news, and that's Brennan Sorsby, the Texas Tech quarterback who got in trouble with gambling. He attempted to go back to college to play one more season. there was a lot of litigation and law stuff that was going back and forth. It sounded like maybe he was going to get a chance to play again in the NCAA. And then there were teams that were boycotting playing Texas Tech if he was to come back. And so he decides to come out for the supplemental draft that's going to be happening this summer in like mid to late July. And now NFL teams will have a chance to use one of their 2027 NFL draft picks on Sorsby.
How does that work? I've never heard of the supplemental draft.
That's how Josh Gordon ended up getting into the league.
Interesting.
Was a supplemental draft. He was really the last guy that was pertinent in the NFL after having the supplemental draft. And I think Sorsby is going to be the best quarterback that's ever come out in the supplemental draft, as far as I know.
They just gotta like throw out one of last year's or next year's picks.
Yeah, so Sorensby, if you'd go back to college, he was still projected in like the first round of the NFL draft. And so NFL teams won't have to, but they could pay a first round 2027 pick if they thought, hey, let's get Sorensby on the team when I got nothing else going for us. Or they could play and pick a second, third, fourth, all the way up to the seventh round. And whoever the highest bidder is, that's the team that ends up getting Sorsby on the team.
Interesting. All right, cool. I didn't know that's how it went. So.
And so any team can go after him. And which team do you think has the highest likelihood to land this guy? Or who would you like to see him go to? Maybe they're the same question. Maybe they're different questions.
Honestly, I don't know much about him because I didn't expect him to come out this year. So I did not do a whole lot of recruiting. But obviously, there's any teams that could use a quarterback, and Jets have plenty of picks next year. So I could see them going for him.
The Jets are a high probability team. I think you're right there. Just a little bit of background. He did have an 80th percentile breakout age at age 19. He had a passing grade 8th in the nation per PFF. He was one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league last year. He rated number 2 best in the NCAA, which is like a high pressure to sack ratio. He didn't have a very good completion percentage, but he did throw a lot of deep balls, like 13 yards per completion rate, which is pretty good in the NCAA. And then he's also a dual threat quarterback. So he was a good rusher at Texas Tech. So there's some stats that are interesting, but a huge gambling problem. It sounds like he was gambling on his own team. And it sounded like it wasn't just a couple bets. It sounded like there was a high number of bets where he had to go to like a gambling anonymous like counseling. And so an NFL team is going to be taking a risk on this guy in hopes that he's going to like pick himself back up and maybe not have some of these problems.
We got Calvin Ridley in the quarterback position, huh?
That's a good way to put it.
He got
very
what?
Good way.
Suspended for, was it over a year?
Yeah, I think so.
I was gonna say, I thought it was.
I think it was at least a year.
Minimum a year, yeah.
And I wouldn't expect him to be like whatever happened in the NCAA last year. That's not going to have any effect on him this year outside of him being in the supplemental draft. There's not going to be any penalty in that way unless the NFL finds that he's gambling on his own team or on NFL teams while he's in the league.
I believe if they gamble on NFL teams, it's like an automatic out of the league. Like on their own team.
Well, didn't Calvin Ridley gamble about the NFL?
I don't think he gambled about his own team though. I think if it's about your own team, I think it's an automatic.
Okay. So. If you're an NFL team and you're making millions of dollars, why would you take the risk?
Yeah, no kidding. What's like you don't got enough, huh?
Right. Yeah, and there's other things you can gamble on because there's a lot of avid gamblers that are in the NFL. And we see this with a lot of professional players. I mean, even Michael Jordan is well known for how much gambling he does. He's gambled millions of dollars away. But he had the money. He had the money to actually do that too, unlike a lot of people. You said the Jets might be a place here for Sorensby. I think the Cardinals could be on the table. And then what about the Falcons? I wrote an article about the Falcons mishaps over the last 3 years, and they're limping in with Penix. They got Tua on a 1-year cheap deal. Why not throw a pick at Sorensby and see what happens there?
I think it's definitely a possibility, but then you're looking at now you're trying to evaluate 3 guys for your quarterback position. I mean, they're already struggling just looking at 2 at this point. How much time and effort do you really want to be putting into 3? So, I mean, it's definitely not out of the realms of possibility. That's for sure one of them. But I would hate to be honestly, the Falcons at this point, I could see them just being like, you know what? Next year's a great year to draft a quarterback.
What about one of these Texas teams, the Cowboys or the Texans? I mean, he came from Texas Tech. You know that Texas is going to be, at least an area that's got to be circled for Sorensby to land. Because right now behind Dak, you've got Joe Milton the third.
People love that, and
what? People love Joe.
That was going to be my point. I mean, Dak is still playing just fine. Yes, He's starting to get there, but he's a very, very, very good quarterback. And then they got right behind him Joe Milton the third, who is just an absolute nuke for an arm. And so I don't see them going after maybe the Texans, but I think the Texans like their backup more than their starting quarterback at this point. So I don't know if they go for him.
Their backup. Who's the Texans quarterback? Backup.
Long neck. Davis Mills.
He played very well last year.
He played better than Stroud last year.
You're not wrong. That's interesting, Colton.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think either one of those 2 teams. I think we're looking at more of a situation of a desperate team that is just looking like dying for a quarterback. And so you're looking at a desperate team like the Jets, like the Browns maybe, but they're already looking.
Did you see the meme that I ended up sending in the Fantasy Holics messenger board? It ended up having, it's the guy that was with the girlfriend. He's moving and turning around and looking at Sorensby. And this time it had multiple girls that he was with, and it had Dylan Gabriel as a short version of the girl. It was a pretty comical bit.
I did not see it, but now I'm gonna have to go back and take a meander.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to meander your way after the podcast here. Today we're talking Dynasty tight end rankings. We've gone through the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver just last week, and now we're finally on our favorite position, Colton, the tight end.
Give me a good tight end, man, and I love it.
Not going to be in the rankings here, Colton. I know I had my history as a tight end in high school, but I am not on this list. I know it's going to surprise you, but I do have a list of tight ends that is 60 long.
You're an absolute crazy man. I was not about to go to 60. I was looking at 40 and getting really sad. So, yeah, good for you. You love to scrape. So, I'm proud of you, but I will not be following suit, Dustin.
That's all right. We're just going to talk about primarily our top 30 here, Colton. And today, again, you can find the rankings on the Fantasy Holics Facebook page. But today, we're going to bring you a treat. We're going to give you a sneak peek into thefantasyholics.com. Click Dynasty Rankings, click the position, and then you will simply find the tight end rankings. And we'll be comparing our rankings with the Holics.
Are you waiting for me? Are you waiting for me?
Colton, we see here in the top 5 of the Fantasy Holics. Yeah, we are diving in. We're going to dive in really quick here. Right here on the screen, you can see the first 8 tight ends that the Fantasy Holics has listed here. And it goes as follows: Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, Harold Fannin Jr., Tucker Kraft, Sam Laporta, and Kyle Pitts. And our rankings are exactly the same, I think, in the top 5, Colton. And there's a discrepancy here with us in the Holics, and we have Brock Bowers as number 1 over Trey McBride at number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, they pretty much besides the top 2, they copy and pasted mine. I'm gonna have a word with them. I want some copyrights on this. But anyways, yeah, I went Brock Bowers over Trey McBride, over for 1 and 2. And that's merely because just the age difference, honestly. You're going to get a few more years. Brock Bowers is, his second year, and Trey McBride is, I think, 5th. So I think there's like a 3-year gap between the 2 or 3-year gap. So that is primarily either one of those 2. And you can argue either one that you want in the top 2 spots. I don't care. These 2 guys are, if you've got them on your team, you've got gold.
Yeah, I agree. I just think, I think Brock Bowers has the edge. Again, you got the age. He doesn't have a lot of target competition, and the Cardinals don't even know who their quarterback's going to be this year, let alone next year. So I think that's why I got Brock Bowers at number 1 over McBride.
Yeah, and I mean, you can argue that Trey McBride got the job done with Jacoby Brissett. So if Brissett decides to start playing with the Cardinals, he could have a phenomenal year this year, but we'll see about next year who they bring in and decide to be their quarterback. So,
well, then I think there's a lot of excitement for these next 3 tight ends in Loveland, Warren, and Harold Fannin Jr. They were all rookies last year. They're going into their second season this year, all of which are having more opportunities. You got Colston Loveland that no longer has to compete with DJ Moore. You've got Tyler Warren that no longer has to compete with Michael Pittman Jr. And you got Harold Fannin that no longer has to compete with Njoku. Although, 2 of those 3 have problems at the quarterback position. The Colts and the Browns are still figuring out what they're doing this year. And then in the Browns, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be even next year. And I think that's why, it goes Loveland, Warren, and then Harold Fannin Jr. there for the Holics.
I mean, and same for me, but I think I'd put these guys in that order, talent-wise, regardless of the situation that they're in as well. I really like all 3 of these guys. I think they're going to be, the future of the tight end position, following behind McBride and Bowers here. And so we saw them all 3 just break out last year, but, we just saw Colston Loveland do it greater than the other 2. He really dominated, made plays when it mattered in the playoffs there. Still a very young age of 22 years old. So he's got the age gap between him and Tyler Warren there by like 2 years. And Tyler Warren looked fantastic when he got the ball, but, he did kind of disappear there. Came out real strong at the beginning of the year, was demanding targets and everything, but vanished after Daniel Jones got injured, which pretty much everyone did because they didn't really have a quarterback. But I mean, to say between those 2 is you can argue, but I think Colston Loveland had the better talent and the age difference. Whereas Harold Fannin, I think,
Colton, they went to Phillip Rivers.
You're not wrong.
At the end of the season. So let's not forget they had Phillip Rivers at the end of the season. Alec Pierce and Rivers seemed like they were connecting enough that Alec Pierce got, a bag of cash. And Alec Pierce now is injured. So now it's just mainly Tyler Warren and Downs that are pretty much the primary targets outside of Jonathan Taylor, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I put all 3 of these guys, I think, in the same tier for me. I know a lot of would argue that Harold Fannin would probably be the next, but I would be happy with Fannin in Dynasty for sure. I think the other 2 belong in a tier above for this like redraft year. But Dynasty specific, I put them all in the same tier, man, because what Harold Fannin did with the quarterback and team he had, man, I think he looked real good, and he has a very bright future ahead of him.
I like the tier of like Kraft, Laporta, Pitts. I think you have pretty much, yeah. I mean, you're spot on here with the Holics, and I ended up going with Pitts, Kittle, Kraft, Laporta. I'm still a Kittle believer. I have him at my number 7. Yes, he's coming off injury, but I mean, if someone's going to come off of an injury, like who better than like George Kittle to recover from an Achilles tear? I mean, he's already on the field, he's already running, and I'm still a believer in Kittle, and I think that he's in a better situation this year than what he was last year because the 49ers just seemed like they had everybody that was injured. They didn't have any wide receivers of consequence. They have more opportunities to maybe score touchdowns this year now with Mike Evans. I like Christian Kirk, but does Christian Kirk is there target competition between him and what Kittle does? I'm not sure, possibly, but I just like Kittle, and I think he's going to have more touchdown opportunities this year. Kraft scares me a little bit because I think with his injury, I think it's going to take him a little bit more time to recover.
Yeah, I would agree with you in terms of redraft, but I also, we are talking dynasty, which is
Dynasty.
why I have Kittle moved down. Because
I'm looking at like a 2-3 year window though when I look at dynasty, and that's why I still have Kittle up there.
When we scroll down can you scroll down to Kittle on the Holics thing here real quick?
Yeah, I'm going. I don't know where Kittle's at. Kittle's all the way down to 13.
Yeah, well, let's look at the age. 32.7 years old. He's going to be turning 33 this season, coming off of an Achilles injury. I know he's coming back strong. He's already running. He's already looking good on all the reports, but that's the offseason reports, man. We got to see what he's going to be like in games. So if I'm in a startup and I'm staring down having to draft Kittle over some of these younger guys that have upside, I better be in win now mode. Like Kittle is absolutely, I think, a well worth like investment if you're in a win now, but man, I'm like
8-year difference. 8 years difference between Kraft, Laporta, and Pitts. Okay.
So that's merely why. The only reason I love George Kittle, do not get me wrong. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I think he's a phenomenal player and he's fantastic. But dynasty wise, man, you've got to start thinking about when is it the end, especially coming off of a devastating injury. If this year doesn't go well for him, what are the odds that he says, you know what, maybe I'm going to go hang up my hat. Maybe it's time. I mean, he has a strong connection with his wife and everything, and that could be a discussion at the end of this year if it doesn't go well.
Then the Holics, again, it goes from number 6, Kraft, 7, Laporta, 8, Pitts. They go Eli Stowers at 9. And then their number 10 is Oronde Gatskin.
They copied me. It's just they copied me all the way to 9.
Are you kidding me? Huh.
I also have Eli Stowers at 9. And then we all know who my love is, that I have to remain in the top 10. And
oh, Colton.
Because
first off, before we get to Kincaid at 10, can maybe you bring us up here to speed of why Eli Stowers is up here at 9? Because I've got Eli Stowers. I love Eli Stowers, but I got Eli Stowers down at 12.
Well, I think this is once again another a purely a dynasty choice. We watched last year. We watched. I can't think of his name right now. Oh, Dallas Goedert. We watched him get integrated into this offense and scored the most touchdowns he's ever scored in his career. And with the moving on from AJ Brown, they did bring in Lemon, but moving on from AJ Brown, that just opens
and Hollywood Brown.
Would you stop bringing him up? Nobody cares.
Hollywood Brown is there.
He's the token. They got to have a person with last name of Brown on the team.
Wicks is there now too, Colton.
I don't care. You just keep saying names I don't care about, especially against the tight end. Hollywood Brown is a field stretcher. Dontavian Wicks can't catch the ball, so I'm not concerned. he can run a good route, but if it hits him in the hands, he's not catching it. So,
Damn.
but Stowers, he's young. He looked really good. He goes to a team and that we know is good, and it's a well-ran organization. And so I think that is where the excitement comes from. And you liked him preseason, like you liked him before the draft and everything.
Pre-draft, yes.
I was actually shocked to see him not higher on your boards because I also have him here at 9 because I'm just excited to see what he can do.
I have him down at 12 mainly because I think he's still a developmental tight end. It was good that he went back for one more season. 2 years ago, he'd have been very raw at the position, at the tight end position. Dallas Goedert is still present on the Eagles roster. And so I think it's still going to take some time for us to get production. And in Dynasty, I still want to score fantasy points, Colton. I think that's really what it's about. And that's why I've got, let's see here. Mine goes Kittle, Kraft, Laporta. I've got Andrews 10. And the reason I have Andrews 10 is because he's the only real tight end in town now with Baltimore. And I've never really been a Mark Andrews guy, but he still gets peppered by Lamar Jackson. And I know they've got a lot of receivers now, but I feel like Mark Andrews is like the only tight end in town right now. Do you know who the tight end 2 and 3 are now with Baltimore? Hibner, who's a rookie, who got overdrafted by him, and you got Cuevas, who got drafted a couple rounds later. That's Mark Andrews' competition. So that's why I got Mark Andrews up at number 10. I think he's going to be scoring you some fantasy points, at least for these first 2 years. And then I got TJ Hawkinson above Eli Stowers. Eli Stowers is at my number 12. I'm still a Hawkinson fan. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. Maybe I'm truthering that, but I'm also an Iowa Hawkeye fan, where TJ Hawkinson came from. And I think fantasy managers forget how dominant Hawkinson was just a couple years ago. He goes out, he gets injured, he has an AC recovery season, and then he had a season with 9, Colton. He had 9 as the quarterback, one of the worst quarterbacks that we've seen in NFL history. And also, during that entire time, the last 2 seasons, the Minnesota Vikings offensive line has been in shambles, and they relied on Hawkinson to do more blocking than receiving. Before that time, Colton, TJ Hawkinson was tight end 4 and tight end 2 with the Minnesota Vikings the first 2 seasons. The last 2 seasons, he was tight end 26 and tight end 34 because, again, you had 9 under center, and you had him where he had to do a lot more blocking, and he was coming off of an ACL repair. That's where I'm concerned with Tucker Kraft. These tight ends, they get pushed around so much. They have to do so much. It takes a while for them to recover from an ACL repair, more so than a wide receiver, more so than a quarterback. We're going to see Patrick Mahomes come back much earlier and be productive. Tucker Kraft is going to have a trouble with it. TJ Hawkinson had trouble with it. Now TJ Hawkinson is 2 years out from having his ACL repair. I think this is going to be a huge bounce back season. And may I add, maybe the bounce back candidate of the year.
I like what you're putting down, man. Because I've got TJ Hawkinson on one of my contending teams. So in the same argument I made for Jordan Addison, kind of like what you said, they had garbage at the quarterback last year. And the point about needing them for the run game, because they also, to add more, the line was in shambles, but also they don't have a stud running back where they're like, well, he can kind of create his own thing. They've got mid guys at the running back that it's like, we're going to need some help. We're going to need to block as many people as possible so they can get the yards. So definitely makes sense. It's definitely
there's a lot of hate about TJ Hawkinson right now. You can get him so much cheaper than like an Eli Stowers in a startup dynasty league. You could probably trade Stowers for Hawkinson plus at this point, because Hawkinson's way down there right now. Nobody's believing in him, but I'm telling you, I'm still a believer, Colton.
You might get me on board with that. And I do want to just touch real quick, because you said in fantasy football that, you have to have the points to win in Dynasty, which is why I do also have my redraft and contender numbers up there. And like you said, for Eli Stowers, you got to score points for redraft / contender mode more. I've got him down to 21, not number 9. So I do have him lower on the redraft and contender side.
All right, we got to circle back here, Colton. Your number 10 is which tight end?
None other than the man himself, Dalton Kincaid. Let me hear it. Give me your best one. I know you're looking for the button. Give it here. Same argument you have for TJ Hawkinson.
Can't compare him. He's never had a top 10 season, has he?
Yeah, his rookie season. I think he was like tight end 7 his rookie year. And so his coming off of his rookie year, he was like 700 yards, had a bunch of targets, and then last 2 years he's been dealing. What did he end up? All right. Well, I'm going to keep going. You look it up. But anyways, last 2 years he's been dealing with a PCL injury.
You liar!
Where'd he end up?
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid has never had a tight end 10 or better season.
Where was his rookie year?
His rookie year in PPR, he was 11, and half PPR, he was 12. Then he went down to 30, and then he was down to number 20 last year.
I thought he finished as like tight end 7. All right, I'm a liar. You caught me. But anyways, his rookie year, he did look good. Last 2 years, he's been dealing with PCL. And this is an offense that we're going to see remain. They passed the ball around, but they needed somebody. They only went and got DJ Moore, which doesn't scare me off. If he can figure out his PCL, I believe he can be a much better tight end than what he's been. And so I'm just hanging on to hope. And he's also really cheap at this point too. You know, when I was hyping him up, he was still really expensive. At this point, anyone's looking to get rid of him because he hasn't lived up to any hype. And he is one of those guys that every now and then, week to week, he does go off. So he can have a week where he gets plenty of targets and gets you points, which at this point, what are we looking for anyways? Is you're flexing. They're like moving this tight end around anyways. You have multiple guys on your team that you're playing the matchups. And so any of these guys are not just, I can plug him in and play him every single week. So he's just one of those guys that's super cheap that does have the opportunity to score points in a given week on the matchup. So that's why, I mean, he's still sitting here at 10 for me.
Yeah, Kincaid is a cheaper option right now. Also, like you said, you can go out and get him. People have a lot of hate for him, but I still think that people that have him are believers in Kincaid, and I still think it's going to cost a little bit more than what a Hawkinson would be.
Oh, definitely more.
You know what I mean? And I'm out with that evaluation. And Kincaid, by the way, he's still dealing with his PCL, and I don't think that gets any better. He's got more target competition now, and the Buffalo Bills pass the ball around more so than almost any other team in the NFL. So it's hard to know, like, when are you going to play Kincaid? When are you going to feel comfortable playing Kincaid? Well, and I'll just keep Trey Burton 2.0 on the bench.
And one of my other arguments is, Josh Allen is approaching. Is he 30 now, or going to be 30 here soon? We're going to have to start seeing a shift in Josh Allen's game in terms of he's not going to be able to sustain the running. Like, as he's starting to age here, his body's going to start breaking down. And I think we could see this offense shift more to like a volume, passing volume, airing it out style with Josh Allen and using his arm rather than his body just to prolong him as a quarterback in the NFL. So that could also help kind of boost numbers here.
Without looking, and you can see here, the Fantasy Holics, they have Dalton Kincaid at their number 14 spot. And again, you can find these rankings at thefantasyholics.com. Colton has Kincaid at 10. Holics have him at 14. How far down do you think? Don't look.
I already saw.
How far down do you think Kincaid is on my rankings?
I already saw you had him at 19. I checked it almost instantly. I was like, where does Dustin got Kincaid?
I've got him down there at number 19, Colton. So he is a little ways down. And again, we like to look more at tiers, and I still have him near the bottom of the tier. Just because I don't know when I'm playing him. If I'm doing if I've got to set it lineup, Kincaid is not an option that I really care much for. If I have to best ball, sure, throw a Dalton Kincaid in there, and you're going to get some of those positive weeks. But I just don't know. Am I going to get a 0 or am I going to get 14 points out of him?
Well, yeah, but I mean, let's go through our next 10. And I could bet you I can argue with that with almost all of our next 10 as well as the problem here.
I feel like I can set it and forget it for TJ Hawkinson. And I think I have maybe 2 or 3 other guys that I could, well, maybe 4 guys I could maybe set and feel a little more comfortable with. But we'll see. Let's see who your next 10 are. Let's go from 11 to 20 here, Colton. You go first here, and we can kind of compare and contrast.
All right, here at number 11, I have Isaiah Likely. 12, Kenyon Sadiq. Should probably move him down after this surgery news. I don't know if I've adjusted since that news came out.
How far down do I have Sadiq?
13, Jake Ferguson. 14, George Kittle. 15, Aronde Gadsden. 16, David Njoku. 17, Brenton Strange. 18, Mark Andrews. 19, Chig Okonkwo. And 20, Terrence Ferguson. Old turd Fergs. Still made top 20, man.
You're higher on turd than me. I've got Terrence Ferguson at 24, and it's because I think that there's a couple other tight ends that have more of an opportunity this year because they have less tight end competition. And I do think that they spread it around a lot with the Rams, and that's why I had them down at number 24. And it pains me to say I have them down lower than you, Colton, because I love the Winter Soldier.
I'll note I have them for my redraft contender mode all the way down to 32. This is not a this year kind of play. It is more of a solely future. I like Ferguson's future.
For example, I've got a couple rookies ahead of them that I like for this year and beyond. And 23, I've got Eli Raridan, and 22, I've got Justin Jolie. I think both of them have an opportunity. They both have some upside. They were drafted in pretty good ranges this year, and that's why I have those 2 guys ahead of Terrence Ferguson. And then a lot of the guys you brought up are guys that I have in here too. I've got Hawkinson at 11, Eli Stowers, like we said, is 12. I still have a Travis Kelce still kind of popping his head in because I think he still has another 2 years of production. He's still in like the top 5 tight end scoring year over year. I love Greg Dulcich. I've got Greg Dulcich at 14. I think he has a huge opportunity with the Miami Dolphins this year. He's still very young, and I was a believer in him when he was a rookie. He kind of got cascaded away from the Broncos after a very productive rookie season. He was in the same draft class as Trey McBride, and at the time I liked Dulcich better. He was my tight end 1 in the class, and I'm still a believer in him, and that's why I have him here. He found a landing spot here with Miami. Aronde Gadsden, I think there's still a lot of hype around him. He's got more target competition this year now with Njoku in town and Charlie Kohler. And Brenton Strange, he's really come ahead here these last 2 years. And then finally I get to Sadiq, Jake Ferguson, and then I get down to your Kincaid. And Dalton Schultz. I don't like Dalton Schultz. I don't like Kincaid, but they still have to be there because there's people that are believers. There's draft capital that you could potentially get from. And Schultz in a low offensive target team, I just don't think that the Texans are going to throw all that much, but he's still technically the tight end 1 on the team. So he's there at 20, and it's gross.
Take Greg Dulcich on your rankings and double it. And that's where I sadly have him.
You have him at 20. You have him at 28.
I would have had him higher 2 years ago. I was with you. I loved Greg Dulcich. I thought he was super athletic. He had the Weird Al Yankovic looked awesome. Really liked him. And now he's on his 3rd or 4th team already in the NFL. And I just can't trust somebody that's just been moved around like that. I mean, went from Denver, got cut from the team. I think he went on to the Giants, with the Giants lacking pass catching options, still couldn't make the cut and get signed by the team. And so then he's released, moves on to Miami, which, yeah, he finds himself in a good situation and has the potential. But what does Miami owe him besides, the fact that they can go out and draft other people and just now we're looking at him being on another team. And so he's just a journeyman that I think is going to find himself in like a role we get excited about because the team needs him, and something where he just isn't able to show up. So I do love him, and I wish he really could have gotten a shot, but it's just hard to trust somebody that's already moved on to so many teams in such a short career.
Speaking of journeymen, Isaiah Likely has moved from the Ravens and he's now with the Giants. You and the Hawks have him at like 11 and 12. I've got him down a little bit lower here at let's see, number 29. So I'm way lower actually on him than you guys. Talk me into moving Likely up.
I mean, it's your argument for the Giants, man. They don't. Who are they going to throw the ball to? I mean, I think it was just last year, the first 2 weeks where Mark Andrews was completely out. Isaiah Likely looked so good. Everyone was so excited to get Isaiah Likely on their team because they're like, he just looked incredible. He had like almost the game-winning toe touch at the back of the end zone. Like, just looked like that guy. Mark Andrews comes back, and they go back to their status quo of we got to get Andrews involved, got to get him on the field. And, the Ravens made the choice to extend Andrews, not Likely. He comes to the Giants where there's opportunity. They're going to have to move the ball somehow. And right now you're looking at a wide receiver one of Darnell Mooney and some other guys. I don't know. They're going to have to throw the ball to somebody.
I love how you always bring Darnell Mooney in there. You're like, Mooney and who? I don't know.
He's the only one I remember.
It's definitely Mooney.
I remember Mooney, baby.
Knows if Mooney's there, they got Odell Beckham and Juju Smith-Schuster and Braxton Berrios.
Perfect.
They got all these guys.
And he's only 26 years old, so keeping him up there at 11, because the fact that he's one of those guys that I think have a high ceiling. I mean, his floor is low because we've seen what his floor is. It's nothing, essentially. You can't play him. But at this point, I'm swinging for, and that's why I keep Dalton Kincaid up so high. It's like, you're playing for the hope. It's like the hope, yes, high risk, high reward, the high upside play that they could become something. Sometimes you just got to call your shot, man. It's never going to haunt me forever.
The fantasy holics are more into Max Clare than we are. They got Max Clare at number 16. They've always been high on Max Clare. We obviously sound like we're still believers in Terrence Ferguson. As a Terrence Ferguson truther, are you concerned about Max Clare?
I mean, with the Los Angeles Rams running 14 personnel, I'm not super concerned. They're going to have 4 tight ends out there at a time. In fact, they're getting rid of all their wide receivers, I've heard. Puka's being traded, and so is Devontae. They're just getting rid of all, and they're just going straight tight end set. But, I mean...
like the Steelers.
Exactly. Sure, it makes me a little bit nervous, but they spent a second or third on Ferguson, didn't they? He was a third-round pick, maybe? So they still spent draft capital. He looked
second round pick.
I'm
almost
certain
certain Terrence Ferguson was a second round pick, and I think Max Clare was also a second round pick.
Yeah, and they have 2 older guys ahead of them, so I could see them splitting it. But it doesn't scare me off enough to where I'm not willing. I mean, these are the situations you want to buy into. You want to plant your flag on one guy in these ambiguous situations, because with these ambiguous situations comes one's more expensive and one's cheaper. And you got to just plant your flag on, if the guy that you like is the cheaper one, absolutely go plant your flag on it, go and get them. And it just creates a buying situation. So
Turd Ferg, he was drafted the 14th pick in the second round. And meanwhile, this year, Max Clare was picked at the 29th pick in the second round. So they're both second round talents, and the Rams wanted them both.
Yeah. And I mean, tight ends take a little bit to develop in the NFL. So, Ferguson, I know we weren't expecting much out of him last year, so I'm
I
not
was
moved off by his
impressed with
performance.
Terrence Ferguson at the NFL Combine. I was impressed.
Yeah. So I liked what he did outside of it. He did have a couple of plays, and so
He had some really nice footage from catching the football and scoring some touchdowns with the Rams. He just wasn't targeted all that much because they had other guys they were throwing to, and they had all these tight ends. And is Kobe Parkinson, is he still on this team?
I believe so, but he's
Oh
getting
my
older.
God. Yeah. So, and Higbee's still there.
Getting older.
So they still got a lot of target competition at the tight end position, but it's interesting to see how everybody is looking at this tight end group here with the LA Rams and how different our opinions are. With Max Clare planting the flag with the Holics, we got the Terrence Ferguson. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's a Kobe Parkinson truther. And there might still be some people out there that are like, oh, look at Higbee. He's still on the team. He's pretty buried in my rankings. But lastly here, as we get closer to going into our 20 to 30 range, I think we got to talk about A.J. Barner, number 17 for the Fantasy Holics. I don't even think you have A.J. Barner listed in your top 40. He is listed at my pick 34. But I think that has to go along with Elijah Arroyo still kind of being a guy that where you have some interest in. Is that accurate?
I mean, definitely. And AJ Barner, oh man, I would never best ball maybe, but I would never ever. If I'm on my looking at my dynasty roster and I'm like, you know what, this week is the week to play AJ Barner, I'm gonna be really sad with myself. Honestly, I know there are AJ Barner truthers out there. People liked him, but man, I was never one of them, and I would never be able to look at my roster and say, "Yep, this is the week I start him." So,
Colton, would you believe this? He was tight end 14 last year with 68 targets, 52 receptions for 519 yards and 6 touchdowns. In his rookie season, he played pretty well too, and he was PPR. He was 35th ranked. He had 38 targets, 30 receptions for 245 yards, and I believe Kobe Parkinson was on the team at that time. So the Seahawks decided they were fine moving on from Kobe Parkinson, doing the rebuild that somehow got him to a Super Bowl win. And AJ Barner, he made some pretty spectacular plays in their playoff run and even in the Super Bowl.
I mean, there's an argument for him. I definitely see it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I would just look at my roster and be quite sad.
Well, you know what's sad? I have Max Clare. Can you guess where he's at in my rankings? Don't look. Come on. Just guess.
Oh no, I'm looking at
all
mine.
the way out to 60. Okay.
I was gonna say I've got him at 26 on mine because he's an interesting young tight end. But I was gonna say in your 40s.
I can't believe you have you have him up there at 26. I got him at number 50. I got Max Clare at 50, Colton.
So a hater.
Yes.
It's for your love of the Winter Soldier. Let's be honest.
It that has to do a lot with it. Yes, Colton. I think you're right. All right, we're gonna slide her down here. After AJ Barner, the Holics go Dallas Goedert, Brenton Strange, Mark Andrews finds his way on the list here at number 20. Then they decide to go with Juwan Johnson, the Winter Soldiers, number 22. There we are. Chigakonkwo at 23, Schultz, and then they go TJ Hawkinson is their number 25, followed by Kelsey, Arroyo. They don't know what they're doing with Arroyo there too, because he's still up there pretty high. Henry, Pat Freiermuth, and then finally Gunnar Helm is their number 30 to round them off.
Wow. We are getting into the down and dirty, nitty gritty, very ugly. See, like Hunter Henry, I would absolutely look at Hunter Henry and say, I'll play him over AJ Barner.
What's interesting is they have Terrence Ferguson ranked higher than me.
Wow.
Again, Terrence Ferguson 22. How are you guys ahead of consensus? You're ahead of me now.
You
Both of
hate
you.
Terrence Ferguson. I can't believe how much you hate him.
I mean, I don't know how this happened, but the script has flipped, and everyone's excited for Terrence Ferguson.
Terrence Ferguson
I
hater.
love it, but now I'm 24 compared to your 20 and the Holics 22. Interesting, just an observation, Colton.
Curious is what we'll call it.
Curiouser and curiouser.
Curious. I mean, I'll just do my next 10 so we can kind of see here. 21, I've got Gunnar Helm. 22, Dallas Goddard. 23, TJ Hawkinson. Then Juwan Johnson at 24, Travis Kelce, Max Clare, Theo Johnson. Here's Greg Dulcich at 28. Hunter Henry, almost right where they've got him. And then 30 is Cade Otton. People forget about Cade Otton, man. Everybody forgets about Cade Otton.
Yep, you've got him at 30. I've got him at 32. I got AJ Barner at 34. Gunnar Helm, you had brought up. I got him in 33. So I've got some of these guys outside of my top 30. I got mine goes Dalton Schultz. Again, I'm just trying to look and see who's the number one tight end. And then now it's like, okay, who's maybe the number one there? And that's Chigakonkwo. He's number 21 with the Washington Commanders. The Commanders, they only really have Scary Terry on the offense. So maybe Chig gets an opportunity. That's where he's got that fantasy bump for me. And I'm hoping that if I do have him, that he does really well at the beginning part of the season, and then I can sell high on him. Then I go Jolie, Reardon, as you know, Terrence Ferguson. Then I got the Senator himself, Ben Sinnott. I still am a believer here, Colton. Although I do have a Conquo at 21. I got Sinnott not too far behind him. I'm hoping that they're two ships kind of passing in the night as the season develops. Oscar Delp is an interesting name at 26. Njoku at 27. I think he's got a little bit left in the tank. Although I did trade him in a league just yesterday for a 2028 second-round pick in a Superflex league. Then I go with the two giant tight ends in Theo Johnson and Isaiah Likely.
You didn't see where I had Njoku, did you?
I did not.
I've got him up at 16, man. I love Njoku. I love him in LA. I think he's going to get some absolute work. Did we not see old man rapper himself do well in a offense with Mike McDaniel?
You know, in life, it's hard to love.
The owl, man. Every time just gets Darren Waller. And we saw him come out of retirement and get absolute work and be productive in this Mike McDaniel offense. So I think Njoku is gonna eat this year. I think he's gonna be a fantastic addition, and I'm excited for him. And I think it could really kind of kick back up his career and kind of show what he did. You know, he was plagued with injury the last few years, and not to mention he was playing on a team that is just not serious. They weren't a serious organization when Njoku was with them. And the only reason I think they moved off of him is because they're like, we're going to have to pay him. What do we really want to pay a tight end at this point of where we're at, where we have Harold Fannin? I mean, they went and found Fannin. So I think they were just like, you know what, we'll just let him go, let him be him. And I think he got a perfect landing spot there in LA because he's a man. When we saw the ball in his hands, he was a beast. And I think people are forgetting of that. So he's somebody that I would go and buy, especially if I'm a contender.
You like that price would you have paid a 28 second for him?
Oh, easily.
One tight end league?
Oh, absolutely. I'd be tossing that out for him this year.
So it looks like you'd have been happy selling him. I would have been happy getting the second.
No, I would have been happy buying.
Yeah, I know. You'd have been happy buying him for a second round pick, and I would have been happy getting a second round pick for him.
Absolutely.
Yep. I couldn't help but notice that you didn't have Darren Waller in your rankings.
Is he playing football?
It's hard to be free. It's hard to give all of your soul and
It's hard to be free, man.
Hard to be free. So right now he's finding it hard to be free because he's not on an NFL roster right now. But he did not say that he's retired for a second time yet. So not dead yet, Colton. Not dead yet. I have him ranked, if you're interested, at 53. Only 3 spots behind Max Clare.
Only. Oh boy.
Love that. Oh man. Gunnar Helm. I do have Gunnar Helm on that league that I traded him away. I have Kittle on that league, and it was a little bit more shallower of a bench, and so it only made sense for me to move on from him and Njoku, I mean, and we'll see what happens. I don't have Njoku anywhere else.
So I think I'm against consensus here with Gunnar Helm as well. I've got him all the way up at 21 because I like what he did towards the end of the year last year on an abysmal Titans team. And I like what the Titans have done with their coaching staff. You know, they bring in Brian Daboll, Robert Saleh is the head coach there. So I think we're going to see this offense do a lot better. I think we're going to see it start progressing. They actually have a wide receiver of consequence now in Carnell Tate. So that'll just help open up the field a little bit more. And I think we could see a better year from Gunnar Helm. Not to mention they moved on. They just let Chigakonkwo go. So I think that maybe tells us their confidence in their what was their rookie last year in Gunnar Helm. So I could see him start to climb the boards and probably end up closer to where I have him, where people are going to start seeing towards the end of this year, if not even higher.
So it sounds like you're not concerned with Gunnar Helm's 40 time of like a 4.8.
Not in the tight end position. I'm not in the slightest.
I'm a little closer to what the Holics have. I have them at 33.
Tight ends aren't known to be incredibly speedy, aside from Kenyon Sadiq. I mean, he's like the outlier. But Gunnar Helm, I think, he's just going to get the ball and drop. I'm not saying Gunnar Helm is going to be, the next superstar, but, we could see him be like a Hunter Henry for his career. You can plug him in a week if it looks good. So
I like Pat Freiermuth, but boy, it's hard to trust that guy anymore. And it's hard to trust any of the Steelers tight ends. Darnell Washington has really come forward, and and he was still a guy that, even though he had a pretty good year, I dropped him in a league because it's like, okay, I have a rebuild team. I don't need this guy. I'm going to go other ways at the tight end position and hope for the best. Because I just can't trust the tight ends there with the Steelers. I got too many of them.
And I think the Steelers actually just extended Mike Washington. So that just kind of tells you where they're
not
at.
Mike Washington, Darnell.
Or Darnell, sorry. Darnell Washington.
You've got one of the top rookie running backs in your head right now in Mike Washington.
Yeah, I did. You're right.
He's speeding around your head right now.
It's not Denzel Washington they extended?
It's not Denzel, I don't think.
Okay. Well,
not Denzel.
Darnell Washington, they did extend that.
He was the equalizer.
Ooh. He'd give them a run for their money.
And a man on fire.
Start to watch.
Colton, if we look outside of your top 30, is there any tight ends that you're like, hey, this is a guy that I want on the back end of my roster as like a just in case guy that you could see potentially either like either increasing in value this year, or a guy that you think has an opportunity to maybe make a jump this year?
2 names. I mean, you already said one of them, and Ben Sinnott, the old senator himself. Hopefully, like you said, he makes that jump. Right now, I just have him down here because of all the uncertainty. He had the opportunity to step up last year after Zach Ertz went down to a devastating knee injury. He just didn't do anything, man. Just did diddly. It was sad and hard to watch, honestly, because I'm with you. I loved Ben Sinnott, and I thought he was going to be, the next guy up, and it just didn't work out. So I've got him at 40, but he's still somebody I'm interested in at this point super cheap because he didn't do anything last year with the opportunity. But the other name I'm gonna toss out, and I don't know if you even have him. Oh, there he is, all the way down at 52 for you. Jake Tonjes. He's at 34 for them because, I mean, with George Kittle, there might be some chance that he misses some time, but if not, I mean, also when Kittle went out, man, Tonjes filled in great. He definitely was somebody that you could start in your lineup. Like, there's times in my dynasty leagues, I could just pick him up off the waiver wire when Kittle went out, plugged him in, and he was scoring points. I believe he was like in redraft. I told my wife, I was like, she's like, is there anyone I can pick up? Kittle went down. I'm like, I had a waiver claim on him in our redraft league together, and she's like, is there anyone I can pick up? I'm like, unfortunately, Jake Tonjes. She ended up getting him, and I think beat me that week with him because it was one of the weeks he went off. And he can play well, so he's somebody that you want as an option, especially a handcuff if you have Kittle.
Okay, that's very good news there, Colton. I have two in mind. I think I'll start with the first one, and that's going to be Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is my number 42. And Michael Mayer, again, finds himself with an opportunity where there's not really a whole lot of target competition this year. But what gets me a little bit more excited isn't so much this year, Colton. It's more about what's going to happen beyond this year, because he becomes a free agent already, unrestricted free agent after this season. And if you look back at that same draft class, which I think was the McBride Dulcich class, there was a lot of people that thought that Mayer was the number one tight end in his class at that time. And it only took, am I wrong in that time frame? I think he was in the same class as those guys, but nonetheless, there was a lot of believers in Michael Mayer, and then he ends up getting surpassed by the best tight end in the league by Bowers. So I think Mayer is a guy to definitely Michael Mayer is a guy that you're going to want on the back end of your roster, especially when we start to look at like mid-season, because no one's talking about Michael Mayer right now, and I'm talking about him here in June as a guy that you probably want to stash him, and he might still give you some production this year. And the other guy I think is Cole Kmet. And the main reason I bring up Kmet is I think he's still signed through like 2028, but they just drafted a guy in Sam Roush, and he's going to play that Cole Kmet role. And if Sam Roush can show that he's as good as what people think that he is, I could see the Bears moving on from Cole Kmet and having Cole get traded somewhere. Now he's a little bit less exciting because the Bears still have him signed, and then he is also has to be traded for. And he's got to find the right landing spot, while Michael Mayer, I think, has a better opportunity to maybe land somewhere where he chooses.
Yeah. Mayer was in the draft class with Kincaid and Laporta, Musgrave, Brenton Strange, Darnell Washington. He was in.
That was a year off.
Yeah, so the year after. That's what I thought. I thought he was 1 year after McBride. But still, nonetheless, yeah, he was viewed as possibly the tight end one. It was kind of debated between, Kincaid, him, and Laporta. So, but still someone I like, and he was picked early in the second round. He was 34th overall, so he was the second pick in the second round there. So definitely carries some draft capital with him, and with the Raiders having Bowers, yeah, he's going to want to look to move on to somewhere he can be featured a little bit more. So definitely somebody you could maybe be able to get him off your waivers. Honestly,
it's sad, but it's possible. I think if you're in the right leagues, he's not on any waivers. But two guys that might be on your waivers, I mean, if you're really looking deep, is Elijah Higgins and Noah Gray, and they're just kind of a guy away. So if there's an injury to Kelsey, if there's an injury to McBride, these are guys that are going to step in, and they're gonna provide you some fantasy points, and maybe you can offload them and trade them for something of value. And so those are two other guys that, again, are on your waivers probably right now, and almost all your leagues, that if you're struggling at the tight end position, you could do worse.
Couldn't agree more.
Any last bits on about the tight end position here, Colton? I think we provided a lot of details here with the Dynasty tight end rankings. Again, available on thefantasyholics.com. And Colton and I, we were able to compare ours with the Holics.
Yeah, I mean, one last bit of information I have for the tight ends is, stay water with your tight end position. If you don't have somebody like, the top 4 or 5, I would say, so once you get beyond Bowers, McBride, Loveland, Warren, Fannin, be willing to move them in and out. Don't just set your tight end and say, I am good for the rest of my season to leave this guy here. It's a mistake I have made. And so it's look at the matchups, play where they're going to be able to get, and have a few options to be able to swap in and out. Because beyond those top 5 guys, really, they're not going to be every single week starter. So just give yourself some options if you are just kind of surfing with the tight ends there. Leave yourself opportunity to plug and play, because that's primarily what the tight end position becomes, is plug and play after you get outside of the kind of just the top 5 even, man. So you just zooming in. 25 years old. That's incredible.
Yeah, 25. He's still pretty young. That's Michael Mayer. Just behind, one spot behind Jolie, which I feel like Jolie's really down low there for the Holics at pick 4 at number 40 for the tight ends. But Colton, thank you again for making it on the show at the Dynasty tight end position. You can find Colton at FF Captain 22. You can find me at FF Healers. We are the Fantasy Football Healers.
Salud.